Ultimately, I would like to put them in a position that was a little bit ahead of where I was coming out growing up. I mean, you and I are both from blue collar, hardworking families that were great environments, but in terms of financially and wealth, we were poor at best, middle class, probably middle class poor.
Right.
But so for me, I look at building something that if they want to be a part of, they can. We'll give them that opportunity.
And there he is, the myth, the legend, the one and only, the Seymour High School graduate of 1987, the Mr. All-State basketball or just all-county. Maybe didn't do anything. Andrew Graves, thanks for joining today, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's so awesome to be on here. I've looked forward to this for a while now. Look up to you as someone who I've known for several years, and looking forward to talking with you today. Thanks for having me.
Good. Let's have some fun here today. So, you're like my favorite drug dealer of all time, right? You are the salesman, the history man, the guy that sells all the drugs in East Tennessee. So, tell me how you got from being a pharmaceutical sales guy into a real estate investor.
So, it's really a kind of interesting story that's kind of twofold. One, I bought my first property here in Seymour, 6.5 acres, while I was in college, 1990s. And I always thought I'd move back here, build on it. Ended up selling it, doubling it, making my money.
Well, hang on just a second. You bought 6.5 acres in the 90s in Seymour. So how much did you give for that 6.5 acres?
I think it was 18,000. It right on the back of Cherokee Hills, a great view, perfect piece of property. So from there, got married. Well, before I got married, was working with Boy Scouts of America and bought a house in Holston Hills when Holston Hills was at its low point. Probably the best structural property I've ever owned. 115,000. Bought that for, I don't know, it was probably a 3,000 square foot house.
Wow.
And had a 12 by 12 I-beam running down the center of the basement. That was a tank. Double my money on that. And I thought, well, maybe there's some opportunity in the future here for real estate. But really how it got started, I lost a job in 2007. And my wife was in the same industry that I was in at the time. And we were living in Nashville and just really started looking at what are some ways that if this ever happens again, I can make sure that I'm not in a weak position. So we got involved in the gym business, and we own and operate 2 commercial gyms, one in Maryville, one in Greenback. And through that, we bought our first piece of commercial property, a small old gas station in Greenback there, and realized that was a good investment, and it served us well over time, and we moved on from that one. But that's how we got started.
So Greenback, back in the day, Greenback was out in the middle of nowhere. And today, geez, it's building up crazy. So you're a real estate investor. You specialize in residential and investment property. You focus on sourcing deals, evaluating market trends. What kind of market trends? How do you evaluate your market trends yourself?
I look for where the ball is going and where the growth is moving. And we were very early to Greenback.
Right.
When we bought that first property, we put a gym there. People were like, why in the world would you put a gym in Greenback? It's a K through 12 school, single A school, small community. But that growth from Maryville has pushed south on 411 into Greenback, Von Orr, and Madisonville. And so we look for, one, where the market's moving, and 2, what we can afford.
So you live in Maryville now, right?
We are in Maryville, yep.
So if the people's not familiar where Maryville is, explain to the people out there where Maryville is in East Tennessee.
Yeah, so Maryville is foothills of the Smoky Mountains. It has Townsend. It has the Knoxville Airport, but it's eastern portion of middle eastern Tennessee. It touches Sevier County and Knox County and Blount make up the Tri-County area.
Right. So what took you to Maryville?
A wife and a place where she wanted to live.
It seems like they're really good at doing that to us.
Hey, marry up is a key.
There you go. You married up for sure. So, hey, tell me a little bit about your family.
So, been married a little over 20 years to my wife, Melanie. I've got 2 girls, Katie and Emily, a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. very blessed. We're active in our church there in Blount County at East Maryville Baptist Church, and they're active in sports and do just a variety of activities. And Melanie operates the businesses. She does the bookkeeping, the staffing, all the administrative and the hard lifting that occurs with gyms and real estate.
Well, I've seen pictures of your family, and your girls are cute as they can be. I'm glad they took their cuteness from their mama for sure. So, did they get that athletic ability from you or from your mama, or because they're pretty good?
I like to think they got it from me.
Well, good. So I do a lot of, when I'm doing my real estate investment, I'm doing it as, for the family as well, and hoping to leave a legacy for my girls. So, what does that play a big part of your investment? Plays a big part of what you're going to leave for your family, or what's your goal there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, I would like to put them in a position that was a little bit ahead of where I was coming out growing up. I mean, you and I are both from blue collar, hardworking families that were great environments, but in terms of financially and wealth, we were poor at best, middle class, probably middle class poor.
Right.
But so for me, I look at building something that if they want to be a part of, they can. We'll give them that opportunity. I'm not going to hand it to them just to go hog wild
Right.
and not put any effort or work or have any purpose in their life, but allow them some options to supplement what they want to do with their life. But they got to have purpose. They got to have grit,
Right.
work ethic. That's why they're involved in sports.
Right. My whole philosophy, my motto at the house is work hard, play harder. So, we want to teach them how to work, but also have fun in life for sure. So you bought a property in Seymour to start off, and then you bought a house down in Holston area, and then you worked your way into Greenback, and you got into the gym business. Why in the world would anybody get into the gym business for?
That's a great question. And to backtrack just one step, we actually had some partnerships in commercial real estate prior to us buying our first piece of property, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But so we were renting there on 411 in Maryville when we started. And, as a lot of people think, throwing money away, no control over raising of rents. We had a good landlord. He owned a bunch of commercial property. I've learned a lot from him kind of over the years. But I always thought that if the business can fund the real estate, for us, that's a winning formula.
Exactly.
And if we can get other tenants along in those spaces with some of the properties that we have, that's even better. And so, we use that business to fund the real estate. And ultimately, we thought the business would be the strong point of it, but it actually over time has turned out to be the real estate holdings that we've gotten more and more involved with. And we recognize the benefit from the depreciation, the cost segregation, and just a tax standpoint along with the appreciation.
Yeah, that's how I kind of look at things too. I've got myself into a lot of binds over the years, but if I figure out if I can get it just to pay for the real estate, you're going to come out in the end anyway. So how about the gym business? What's it like then?
Gym business is probably the toughest business to be in. Like restaurants, it has a super high failure rate. It's very capital intensive, and a lot of people have it as a hobby or something that they enjoy doing, and they try to make it a business. And like a lot of things, there's a big separation from lifting and training to operating and running a business. And it has a super high failure rate, very capital intensive with the equipment getting more and more expensive. But ultimately, it's a predictable business once you get the ball rolling and you have the steady income coming in from memberships month to month.
Right. So you started one in Greenback, and maybe heard rumors that you have another one going other places. But where are you at now? How many
So
places?
right now we're at 2. We have some interest in some others and looking to possibly grow a little bit more.
Right.
But a part of what we do is try to keep our life simple. And I'm getting older. My wife, does a lot of the work. And so we have kids. We want to be at their ball games. We want them in church. We don't want a ball and chain that ultimately, there's a saying that I learned early on: volume is vanity, profits are sanity. And you got to keep more than you're making. And you don't want it to be such a burden that it's no longer fun.
Right. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that slogan from you. Yeah, you can get bogged down easy. It seems like today's my off day. I promised my wife I'd take off on Fridays. About, I don't know. She works at the church, so Sundays is work day for us, and so I said I was going to take off on Fridays. Well, that happened 2 months ago, and I've taken off one Friday since. But our line of business, you kind of got to get it when you can. So, all right. So, what else you got out there other than the gym business? Maybe have some apartments.
So ultimately, through some of the partnerships, and a big part of it is, kind of that rule of five. You become who you hang with,
Mm-hmm.
and who has skill sets that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
We got into some partnerships early on, and eventually ended up taking the lead and buying those out. But we have some multifamily, not huge, but a 12-unit multifamily, and a partnership in a mobile home park. And the other thing with kind of what we do is we have a belief of somewhat diversification,
Mm-hmm.
that if one area is not going strong, it's predictable and can offset some of the others. And those type of, as those type of investments are not for the weak at heart.
Exactly.
You're always, if you're operating them, taking calls, taking text messages, they always occur on a Friday night or a holiday. And you better have a team of people around you that can help in those situations.
Yeah. Sunday evening, 7:50, I got that call. So yeah, I thought it was going to be a major call, and it was the bushes outside their house need to be trimmed at 7:50 p.m. last Sunday evening. They needed their bushes trimmed, so we got their bushes trimmed on Monday. So you've got apartment complex, 12 unit. What's your biggest advantage of that and disadvantage of it, I guess?
One, scale is always important. Obviously, you start with what you have. We never had just a single rental property for a family.
Mm-hmm.
We got into it, and it's kind of some rules that I've heard, somewhere between 18 to 30 is really a good portion to where you can offset expenses and cost. But I think the advantage of the multifamily is all under one roof, easier to maintain, not running. We like our businesses to be within a short driving distance of where we are, so we can make sure we know what's going on. But if we have problems, that we can address those problems without a lot of drive time. So we're not operators that have things out of state, out of community. Ours are kind of centrally located in this area. So I like that aspect from the multifamily. The mobile home park is, not for the weak of heart, because you see all kinds, but there are a lot of great people. What we're seeing in East Tennessee is just a tremendous number of people moving from out of state, just in the gyms and in rentals, just a tremendous amount of people. And it's pushing young kids, young families like us who grew up in these areas. The price is escalating, so they got to live somewhere.
Right. How in the world are our kids going to be able to afford a house in our area soon? I mean, it's crazy.
It'll be a question of whether they want to live here first off.
Uh-huh.
And as I tell my girls, always marry up. That never hurts.
It won't take much with my girls to do that, so. Little story about your apartment complexes. I used to live in Maryville as well. Gosh, almost 10 years ago now. And we drove by those apartment complexes, and I told my wife, I was like, man, those are, they at one time, they wasn't the best looking apartment complexes in the world, I guess, before you bought them. And I told my wife, we ought to look into those. And then, sure enough, they sold, and I could see them being remodeled. I told my wife, look, this is what we could have had right here, and they look really good. And I had no idea you bought them. So you really turn them into a neat product down there. And it's something that is well needed in that area too, because, man, the cost of living is just crazy high there.
It is. The more apartments being built, a lot of Class A type of properties. And ours are, we're not slumlords, but we're not the Taj Mahal either. And that's kind of always been where people can push down, but they can't always go up.
Right.
And so our goal is to get good people, have them there for, 2-3 years, some of them longer if that's what they want to do to stay. But consistency, predictability, that they can afford. We don't have the turnover where we're going back in and having to repaint or take care of repairs. Just that good tenant who's there, who's just trying to get ahead and move forward, and we can make fair value and they're treated fairly.
Right. Yeah, my goal, I think we have 35 doors now that we manage, and my goal is to get them in, get them where they can buy something eventually. I want to sell these guys, and I tell them, let's get your credit going. Most of the time, my guys that I rent to, they're got a little credit history or something going on with them. Let's get you here. Let's get you, for a couple of years, get you situated, get some money saved up, and let's find you a nice home to make a forever home out of it, or just to step them up. So I've got a lot of good renters. I'm sure you do as well. So the apartments were first, and then you went to the mobile home park?
Yeah, and just kind of stumbled on it, saw the right opportunity and the right deal with it, and really liked the mobile homes. I mean, those people are very appreciative of what we provide, and we try to make it a place that us or our family would be okay living in. We don't put up with a lot of nonsense and drinking and partying. Just good tenants who are good, hardworking, blue-collar individuals who need a place to live, and part of them are park owned and part of them are owner owned. And mobile home parks are getting harder and harder to get zoned, and people can't afford what used to be $125,000-$150,000 house is now $225,000, $300,000, and so they're pushing down. And the quality of mobile homes has definitely improved over the years as well.
Right, they have. There's some really nice mobile homes out there now. Nice single wides. They really are. Really are. So after the mobile home park, are you just on one or two?
Just one. Yeah.
One. You're looking for another one, I'm sure, right?
We're always looking, but
right.
The thing right now with interest rates and deals, the other thing, a large part of my success, obviously we're blessed. We're extremely blessed by the gift and grace of God, and I never want to discount that in terms of where we are. But also, going back to that volume is vanity, profits are sanity, you got to have some cash on hand when the right opportunity presents itself, and you can't be in a hurry. You got to wait for that pitch, wait for that ball, and there's seasons where those opportunities come along, and they're getting harder and harder to find because I think we're in a supply-demand challenge in East Tennessee. There's just more demand than there is supply. So even though the economics aren't always favorable, the demand is so high, and you have to find that spot to where you feel like you can operate it and have a downside risk that's acceptable, that if things do go south, you're still able to cash flow it and make it work.
Right. Do you do any flipping?
Do not. I don't really recall any short-term holdings that I've done.
How do you know if it's a good deal for you on any of your deals? Where do you want to be at?
Well, one, can we afford it? I don't ever want to be over-leveraged. I like 15, 20% down when possible. I look at the cash flow on the property and look to see if there's any upside potential in that cash flow. And then I look at the downside scenario of, if it doesn't do as we think it will do, what's my downside risk, and how easily or quickly can we get out of that, and how long can we sustain it in a difficult time? So, and a lot of it is just talking to people like you and other mentors and friends and getting their take on it, and then a gut feeling of, does it just feel right? And I've always trusted my instincts with a lot of things in life, where, like the Greenback situation, where people really didn't feel like it was a great market to be in, we did. And just knowing a really good feel of the markets within East Tennessee, the traffic patterns, the makeup of that community. We grew up here. We know this area very well. We've seen it grow. We remember when Chapman Highway had a caution light there at French's Market in Seymour. And so it's kind of a combination. I'm not as skilled as you or a lot of others, just willing to take some risk.
You're more skilled, Andrew, more skilled, my friend.
Maybe better looking, but not more skilled.
Well, see, that's not taking too much either. I'm thinking I should have wore a hat today. I really believe I should have. So how long have you been investing overall now? How many years?
I mean, ultimately, all my life, but since I was, I don't know, 19 years old was when I bought my first piece of property. I mean,
It's over 30
I
years
mowed
now.
yards for your brother,
Yeah.
Frog.
Yeah, old Frog. He's a good one.
So my mom always bought and sold antiques growing up, took me to the flea markets. I bought and sold baseball cards. I've always kind of hustled on the side and, you know, worked to build up some cash and lived below my means the first half of my life quite a bit. But I recognize you too. I mean, what you've done, Chad, is an inspiration. I remember when your brother's the most entrepreneurial guy I ever met in high school. You had the gym on Chapman Highway, Scotty's, that a lot of people don't remember, and you've made something of yourself. And I've admired you and looked from a distance as you've grown both spiritually and in your path in the ministry, but also in real estate as well. So
I appreciate that, man. That's why I do. I guess that's why I do as much as I do, so I can do ministry. I love to go. So it takes a lot of money to go and a lot of money to support people. So that's why I'm working on Fridays when I probably should not be, but that's okay. That's okay. And my wife supports me 100% too. So without her, I couldn't be doing any of this. So, I made good money and I have lost money before. So I'm doing a little thing. What's your best and worst deal? And it's not about money wise or anything like that, but what's the deal that you got into and you're like, man, I shouldn't have, that we can learn from maybe, or have you experienced that yet? You might be the
more
lucky
so,
one.
it's been from the opportunities that I've passed up on.
Right.
Just looking back, I've always been, I was raised by parents who grew up in the Depression and were very conservative of how we saved money, what we ate, what was in our refrigerator, and what we did,
Right.
and what we didn't get rid of. And so for me, it's more so the things that I passed on that I shouldn't have passed on. And one example is there used to be a gym here in Seymour, and the property's right across the street there from Kroger where your business is located. Would have been a fantastic opportunity. Just passed on it. My wife wasn't interested at the time. And so there's been a few deals that have been there. The numbers work and did not take advantage of those, particularly when interest rates were low.
Right.
That was the time to be aggressive. And then the other is there's some great properties that I've been partners on or owned that we've sold in 1031 over the years. And people say never sell your real estate. And sometimes you have to. We 1031 and upgraded.
Right.
But some of those properties are just phenomenal properties.
Right. Yeah, I've done that. And you say you shouldn't sell your real estate. And I had 21 properties up in Pigeon Forge that we sold, and we made a little bit of money on each one of them. But, we could have doubled or tripled our money now if we held on to them. But it was right before COVID. We might have lost them all during COVID. So it gave me a good start. But I look back on it and I'm like, geez, But
that's the key. I once had a boss when I left the Boy Scouts, he told me, don't ever look back.
Right.
And don't ever second guess what you're doing.
Right.
And the what ifs and buts, you have no idea how God protects us. He leads us.
Right.
And sometimes, those things that we think might be the right path or the best thing for us ultimately aren't. So
right.
I don't regret them. They're just, in my mind, possibly missed opportunities.
Right. So you got partners as well, and we're getting ready to close this out, but you've got partners in some of your businesses, I'm assuming?
I have. Not a ton, but just a select handful.
How do you pick your partners? How do you know when it's a good partner or a bad partner?
I don't think you ever know, first off. You think you know people till money's involved.
Right.
You see it all the time with families. So I think you look at your relationships over a period of time and try to identify what those values are, but also how their business dealings and their financial dealings have been in the past, and try to identify people that you feel like you can work with. I look for communicators, number one, people that I like to be around, right. But also in some situations, it's purely business, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. But I think in partnerships, it's always a little bit of a guessing game as to how it will work out. And we've tried to mostly go it on our own, but to win big, I think you have to be involved in some partnerships.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And I was told, and this is my slogan, you can steal it if you want to, but never be the smartest guy in the room. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to find another room to hang out in. So that's how I try to pick my partners, somebody that's smarter than I am. So
Yeah.
that's, it's worked so far on most of them, but you learn a lot. I made the most money, I guess, by failing at other opportunities that I had earlier on, because I saw what I did wrong.
It's my number one piece of advice for my kids. I think all of us are taught to fear failure. Failure and setbacks are a part of life. And it took us a long time to be successful in the gym business, a long time before that ball ever got rolling. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in life is don't be afraid of failure. And you can define that in a number of ways, but ultimately setbacks or struggle, resistance. Don't be afraid of resistance. And don't be afraid when you look back at the end of your life to say, man, I wish I would have done that. Because nobody bats 1,000. Nobody gets a hit or makes every bucket or shot.
So you got a little bit of real estate. You got a couple businesses. What's next for Andrew Graves? What's the future hold?
Obviously I'd like to continue to grow those and to simplify those over time into bigger, better properties that are easier to operate or triple net type of properties. Maybe transition at some point. We're looking at colleges for my oldest for her to think about, is entrepreneurship a path that she would like to take? She's both my girls are pretty entrepreneurial. They do the lemonade stands, they do the bracelets, they do all the things to make money selling stuff to the neighbors and their friends. But is entrepreneurship right for them? And then also, just as I approach my 60s, just to really enjoy the last part of my life and build relationships with people I want to be around and my family, and to try to make a difference that when it's all said and done, just to say, hey, that was a good guy and he enjoyed life and he made the most of it.
Biggest goal in life for the girls to be able to say Daddy was a good man. That's what I want. So, the money will all fade away, but just want to be a good guy for my girls. And I know you're a great guy for yours. So, well, Andrew, man, I appreciate you coming on today and talking a little bit. And it's been fun. I look up to you. You've done great. It's awesome. And I can honestly say, I'm pretty sure you're the first person that I remember that can actually dunk a basketball in person that I saw. So I remember you dunking, so that was, years ago. So
it's been a long time.
Can you still dunk?
I could up until I was about 40, but not anymore. In my dreams, I still can. In my mind, I'm 18-year-old with your brother hanging out, playing ball, going places, going to Gatlinburg, going to the Strip, and you tagging alone. That's where I am in my mind.
And all that was before Jesus, right? Before Jesus. That's right.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. But hey, I respect you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you and your brother and your family. And I wish you a lot of success with this podcast and continue. Hopefully, in the future, you and I maybe can get involved and do some things.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Let's do a deal together and figure out how we can leave a little bit better legacy for our girls through it. So that's good. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, and reach out to, how can people hook up with you? Andrew Graves, where's your gyms at? Tell them again, your 2 gyms.
Yeah, so we're on social media, and our social media page, and then our web page, quickfitness247.com.
All right.
And so there's a Maryville and Greenback location.
So if you're in Maryville,
find
Greenback,
me on LinkedIn.
Maybe Pigeon Forge, you might be able to get in a little business up there in Pigeon Forge too.
There's always opportunities for more growth.
Right. All right, Andrew. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. Love you, brother. And we'll catch you later. All right.
I appreciate you.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Call Us Old Podcast. If you got value for this, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. Drop a comment below on your thoughts or questions about the auction market. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.